I realized in the end that there's something that I'm looking for, and there's something that I was looking for since I was a kid, going to Chabad House. Even before that, when I was a kid reading the little Midrash says and wandering around and playing with sticks. Basically, either I have to commit to that something that I'm looking for to the end, no matter what it costs, or I have to let that go and try and build structures and make something out of this. Paradoxically, the more I decided that I'm looking for what I'm looking for and I literally don't care. I'm just going to go right through whatever, anyone that gets in my way, long story short. The more I did that, the more of a fanatical Lubavitcher and a fanatical Jew I feel I've become.
Welcome to Homesick for Lubavitch, a podcast where we explore Lubavitch identity in the year 2025. My name is Bosi Lgani, and I will be your host. Let's begin. Alrighty, we are here in Sandy Springs, round 2, with a very, very esteemed friend and personality. My favorite ex-Twitter follow, unquestionably.
Wow.
Rebbe Tzvi Kilov, resident of Atlanta, Georgia. And if you haven't been following him, you're missing out. And I imagine after this conversation, you will be following him. And so anyway, thank you very much for making the time.
My pleasure.
We're here late at night, and it's been a long day, I imagine, for both of us, but it's time to burn the candle. And again, for all those listening, and if you enjoy this podcast, like, subscribe, and do all the good things online. And if you're so inclined, donate on hfl.com, hflpodcast.com/donate. Anyway, Tzvi, why don't we begin with a little bit of background of how Tzvi Kilov, a.k.a. The Fool, came to be. That's his handle on X.
How I came to be.
The Tzvi Kilov of today. How did a nice Jewish boy from South Africa end up so confidently angry at the modern world and convinced that the modern world has nothing to offer?
There's a long story and a short story. The short story is born in South Africa, as you said, moved here to Atlanta, raised here in Atlanta since I was 7. Was sent to, by my parents, modern Orthodox day school, more or less, until high school. In high school, I went to the local trans-denominational Jewish high school, which was a new concept that was being invented at the time.
Here in Atlanta. Like a pluralistic kind of...
Called the Weber School.
College prep. And
the idea was that we're not sticking to any Jewish denomination, which was an interesting experiment. I did go to the more traditional Orthodox high school for 1 semester, and that was a total and complete failure.
From whose end?
From my end, I hated it. They didn't like me either. And so after that 1 semester, I went to the trans-denominational school where basically, mitzad Yiddishkite, I was left completely and totally alone, which was wonderful. It was like coming to America from an oppressive regime. I was a very, very, very curious and a very, very sensitive child. And my family started going to Chabad House. When we moved to Atlanta, we tried different Chabad houses. We ended up in the one where I ended up growing up. And we slowly started, my parents started becoming more observant before I was born, is the truth. So a long, slow, and steady progress, which is probably why it was so steady, because it was so slow.
But they're also South Africans, so they're starting from a very
True. They
unique-
started true. They started from a more definitely a more traditional and a more informed and a more open to drinking alcohol position, all of which helped.
Oh, yeah, South
think
Africans
so.
drink alcohol.
I have a mashpia who I can't name in this context who classifies chassidus as the only monotheistic religion in which drinking is a core of the religion.
No, I didn't know. I knew. I didn't know that South Africans drink.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
The ones that I know are so like straight laced.
Most South Africans are Litvish in extraction, so it's an interesting combination. But yes, they're exceptional Litvishers who drink.
Oh, so the South African culture is a drinking culture.
In general, yes.
I see.
Yeah, the non-Jewish culture as well, and the Jewish culture too, which is maybe why so many of the shuls, even the non-Lubavitch shuls, ended up being run by Lubavitchers, maybe, who knows. But anyway, I don't really remember so much about Yiddishkite in South Africa. I loved going to shul and all of that as a kid does. So yeah, my parents started becoming more observant from South African traditional. You know, they were South African traditional, which means you go to shul on an Orthodox. You go to an Orthodox shul on Friday nights, and then on Shabbos day you go and play golf or furniture shopping or whatever it is you do.
Right.
And
Friday night.
You have to go to the shul on Friday night, and if it's a nice social scene. And so yeah, we started becoming more observant. We started keeping a higher form of kashrus. We ended up moving within walking distance of the shul and becoming shomer Shabbos. And as all of that was happening, and I was growing up, the local shliach, Rabbi Silverman in Macab, was the first one to start, as Yisrael Shem Tov used to say when he came to visit Mayanot, he was the one who first started ruining my life. I was very, very into the Rabbi Silverman comes from South Florida, and his style of being a shliach is a combination of Rabbi Lipsker from the shul at Bal Harbor, where he was the Balkere at a very young age when it was still in a storefront.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Rabbi Levitansky, Alav Shalom, both Alav Shalom, Rabbi Levitansky of Simcha Monica, were I think two of his big influences. But one of them told him or showed him how powerful it can be to give a lot of divrei Torah in the shul. So
that's Rabbi Lipsker.
Probably, yeah. So growing up, Rabbi Silverman used to say stuff from sichos before kriya, in between aliyahs, and then afterwards before musaf.
That's Rabbi Lipsker.
Yeah, and I started absorbing a lot of that, and I found it what in retrospect I would call intellectually compelling. At the time, I don't know what I would have called it, but it was interesting stuff. I have to say that all of this started after bar mitzvahs. Before bar mitzvah, I was out, wandering on the playground, looking at clouds, playing with sticks. That was what my childhood was like, total space cadet in every way. Not in this world, either in a book or in some fantasy, generally speaking. But after bar mitzvah, my dad said, since you're learning all the stuff for your bar mitzvah, may as well stay in shul, which was not a problem at all. I quite enjoyed it. And so I started learning a lot of this stuff, and then that in turn turned into reading a lot of books and being involved on Chabad.org, where other rabbis started ruining my life in equal measure, like Rabbi Tzvi Freeman and Rabbi Yankee Tauber and others. And eventually, by about halfway through high school, I was desperate to get out of high school and go to yeshiva. I had a very interesting, even already, relationship with Yiddishkite, I would say existentialist at 14 years old.
That's before Yiddishkite?
Together, in parallel, without any real seder to it. It was all emotional. It was all...
so a lot of real angst.
Real angst. And turbulence of adolescence. A lot of fundamental, what would you call it? Dread, wondering what all of this is for, where all of this is going. Is this just a cradle to grave program in which I'm following a script, or do I actually have any say in what all of this is about, what all of this society is about?
Can you define what that is? I don't mean to be cynical, or
not at all.
What's that like? Because you're the second person this week telling me about teenage. Yeah. Angst, like philosophical angst. Like, how did it? Like, I'm trying to see if I completely missed out on this one in my teenage years. Like, what kind of questions are you having?
When you there's a certain integration and innocence in childhood that when you first become really capable of doing averus, you smash into little pieces for yourself, or you can if you're very sensitive, maybe.
So it's like a religious thing?
It's not even religious. It's more, you know what it is? It's it's a line from Batman, which is so stupid, but you don't have to tell people all your Macaris on a podcast, don't know. But you become afraid of your own power, I think, is really what it is. I think that you realize that you've been going through life without any, it's actually, interestingly, kind of what chassidus says about bar mitzvah and being a bar das, maybe, yesh leimar. You realize you've been going through life as just every way I'm going to describe it, of course, is only how I describe it now. It's not how I would have described it then. But nevertheless, you're going through life as a node in a chain of causes and effects.
Sure.
You're Macab and you give out, but you receive causes and you give effects, but it's all in complete innocence. There's no separation from that, and it's totally natural. It's like being an animal,
right,
in a way, right? It's all completely natural, completely instinctual. And at some point you realize that you could actually really hurt someone with your behavior, or really help someone. Of course, I always looked at it completely in the negative by personality. But you have agency. You can really, you could really mess this up. And the consequences could be very painful. Which to a very sensitive kid doesn't have to be that bad to be very painful. It could be something very slight, a slight change in, the social tenor. You could really hurt someone's feelings and not understand that forgiveness is possible, and they're going to have forgotten it by a week from now. Stuff like that. It's a realization that you're not just another node in the chain, and if you keep just following your instincts, which of course in the teenage years start becoming more and more destructive, potentially destructive. You could really, really hurt someone. So it becomes, and then you realize, the second step, which is even more terrifying, is that this realization gives you no automatic power over your instincts. They could totally be running the show. Just because you realize that you really could hurt someone this way doesn't mean you have the ability to stop yourself so easily, especially in those years. With how easy, hormonal teenagers get angry or get sarcastic and things like that.
So you basically become self-aware of this monster inside of you.
Basically, yeah, more or less.
Interesting.
And I really, it's like being hammered to the side of a 747. It's not like it's not like you're contemplating this calmly day by day. It's kind of like just being dragged outside of a car or something. It's your life's going on and you with it, and leaving a trail of destruction in your wake, perhaps, people whose feelings you've hurt. I mean, in very normal and mundane ways that I think most adults wouldn't probably lose any sleep over. But for me, this was quite a disturbing problem. And it makes you really start to question, who am I? What does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to... what does it mean to be part? It even sounds childish in a way to say it. But what does it even mean to be part of a society, in a sense? What does it mean that we live in a society, as they say on the internet? In the sense of, I'm not socially isolated, and if I can't be socially isolated, and you're born with obligations. You come out of the womb not as a tabula rasa with no connections. You come out embroiled and entangled in all of these obligations and expectations. And what does that mean? And is there any way to escape the pain of being a disappointment to your Jewish parents, being a bad friend to your Jewish friends, things like that.
Homesick for Lubavitch is brought to you by Yuvla Media, a boutique video production company servicing the Chabad and Jewish community. Since opening 10 years ago, Yuvla Media has pushed the boundaries of artistic and thoughtful storytelling in the community, with an insistence on there always being a memorable story as well as a beautiful and striking visual image that we believe is second to none. Over the years, we have worked with Chabad organizations around the country, as well as large organizations like Boni Olam, Torah Masorah, and Atzalathon, guided by the belief that your story is absolutely worth telling with depth and creativity. If you are looking to tell your story with a video, please reach out to us at hello@yuvlamedia.com. Again, that is hello@yuvlamedia.com. A link can be found in the show notes. And now, back to the podcast. Interesting. Yeah. The reason I'm asking is it's not trying to psychoanalyze you, and I would do a terrible job at that anyhow. It's that because I'm thinking as you're saying it, and maybe if I really, really dig, I could find something similar. But I feel like, I don't think I was a particularly insensitive kid growing up. I mean, I don't know how you would measure these kind of things, but I do remember like seeing, I think the first time I saw a frum divorced family, like they came to us once. We lived in Australia for a few months of the year for a few years, and it was like the first time I think that I saw a single mom with her kids on Friday night. They came over for a meal, and I went to my room crying. That doesn't like speak to me as some kind of sensitive. I did some horrible stuff as a kid too, but I remember these kind of moments of like sensitivity towards those things. But this kind of existential anguish, I don't remember at all. And so it could just be me, and it's like, I'm just that's just me, and that's not, or I'm wondering like is it to do with like the fact that at that age I was convinced I had all the answers, and like maybe if I have to find this kind of anguish in me, in my story, it's later when like those answers ran out. So that's why I'm pointing to it, because because you're the second person this week who's bringing that up, and it could be, and probably Occam's razor is that you and the other guy were both unusually sensitive teenagers who just were thinking about things that a lot of teenagers don't think about. And I just happened to be talking to you, and this podcast is kind of predominated by people with all kinds of funky questions. But
sure.
I think it's also a possibility that, like when you grow up in the, like I remember, if I look back, the question that would make me almost like what the existentialists called, or Satter called, the nausea, like where you like I literally had to go to sleep to get out of my system. The one, it was like Mashiach's coming and we're gonna live for eternity, and I was like, I can't compute that. And I would start thinking into it. And like, wait, 100 years, 1,000 years, a million years, and even now as I'm saying it, it's like the dread is rising. Not that I think it's a bad thing. It's more I can't handle it. And as a kid, I didn't know what to do with it. So it's just like weird, like the juxtaposition of that being my dread, like the world's too full of meaning versus your dread of like there's no meaning. It's just interesting.
That is very interesting. It's a very interesting point. I mean, I think that that's a very apt observation. I think that it helps a lot to not just to be raised within the entire community, but I think especially the Rebbe, or even just the idea of the Rebbe, is very helpful in the sense that there's a human being who was here recently who it was all reconciled within him, and it was all, it's okay. A human being, there's a good way of being a human being, whereas for me that was more of a question mark, I suppose.
Right.
Dramatic teenager, a sensitive teenager. Obviously, intellectually, I had everything all figured out, which is ironic because I'm about to tell you about the 15 times I realized I had everything all wrong. But I went on a very, very quick sort of reductionist kind of tour of all ideas, and basically, I was looking for what was underneath them, right? Is what underlays everything? What makes anything certain? Is there anything that I can't doubt? Is there anything that actually, has any real, solid, unquestionable meaning? And of course, the answer was absolutely not, right? Nothing has unquestionable, undoubtable meaning. And at the same time, mitzad sheni, I didn't really have questions on Yiddishkite within the context of Yiddishkite either. It was very interesting. I was on the one hand totally doubting everything, but on the other hand, quite enjoying Yiddishkite and not making
Did you take it seriously as like a discipline, or was it just like this is a cute cultural relic that makes me feel good?
I suppose closer to the latter, even though what got me interested in it was intellectual, but not intellectual in the sense of, can I hold this up to every single question that I have and test it against those questions, more in the sense of just, this is really interesting. You know where it really all goes back to? I skipped a part of the story. It's what it really, really all goes back to, is that my grandmother, of blessed memory, my mother's mother, bought me a set of the little Midrash says right before we left South Africa.
Oh, you talk about this all the time. It's your favorite book.
It's my most important sefer in Yiddishkite, for me anyway. And I used to read on Saturday morning before shul.
People are going to think that you're like a full-on illiterate. It's not the case. I'm saying we're going to get to it, but this is a guy who knows his way around Samach Vav.
Stop. But I used to read the little Midrash says with the milk from the cereal dripping down my chin as a kid, for each parsha. Right, this is the parsha. Why don't we read Little Midrash Says? I love the pictures and everything. It's very interesting. Since then, whenever I talk about Little Midrash Says, someone always says that I tried reading it to my kids and it scared them. My kids were afraid, which I found quite interesting because I loved it.
But there you go. That's similar to what I'm talking about.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like if you're a frum kid, the Midrash is very disturbing.
Yeah.
Because like the two-dimensional characters of Torah, very quickly it starts getting very, wait a second. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a certain umbral darkness, you might say, to the Midrash, which I absolutely loved. And maybe it's because I was raised on Spider-Man and X-Men and not on, I don't know how they can be blamed or not, but I was not, I don't know. Maybe it's also there's definitely, if you want to really get into the psychoanalysis, the immigrant story definitely has a big part to play with it. But the outsiderism and weird things and dark things were already of an interest at a very young age. And I loved it. I absolutely loved Little Midrash. And that's what I found intellectually compelling about the speeches between the Aliyahs in the Chabad House, is that there's more to the story of the Midrash, and there's beautiful ways of explaining certain dynamics in the Midrash.
It gets even deeper.
Yeah.
It's even deeper.
Yeah, as the Rebbe's sichos on Midrashim were a huge part of how I ended up here today.
Yeah, I think it's a famous story, if it even happened. You know how these things go. But it's certainly a famous, I think it happened. I think the Rebbe said to someone about like describing the depth of the neshama, that sometimes you have to like dig through all the soil to get to the wellspring underneath, right? Like there's this kind of almost like it's not linear at all, right? Like it's getting dirtier and dirtier until you finally hit purity, right? And there's a similar thing there where like you have this layer of just topsoil, whatever kind of, you just take everything for granted. Then there's this very dark space that you're already looking underneath the hood, and everything is murky and whatever. And the goal is to get to a place where that becomes refreshing, right? And so that kind of sounds like the journey that the layers that you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know. The Midrash, because it's stories. It's because it's stories is really what it is. It's so rich. It's so it's like the cultural heritage of Yiddishkite. It's like if Yiddishkite was completely secular, God forbid, it would be, to not teach your kids this would be like a tragedy. This is like
it's fantastic literature.
It's unbelievable. And there's religious things in the Midrash that are in terms of religious instruction that you can revisit, and even when you first read the story, it doesn't strike you, especially as a little kid, but the richness and the depth. I was just talking this evening with someone about the story in the Gemara where one of the Chazal, I forget who, basically disrespected in preparation of a shir that he was giving. He disrespected the ancient kings who were Evdei Avodah Zarah, and particularly Menashe. And Menashe comes to him in a dream that night and tells him, "Who are you to disrespect us?" In other words, so we were Evdei Avodah Zarah. So what? You should show some respect. You're going to teach. I'll teach you. It was something he didn't know. He didn't know one of the halachas of making hamotzi. And he was going to teach him that halacha, but first show me some respect, something like that. I'm messing up the story, but the bottom line is that he says, "But weren't you Eved Avodah Zarah?" And the Melech, I think it was the Melech Menashe, the worst they say of the kings, and Menashe tells him that if you had been in my generation, you would have lifted up the hems of your garment to run after Avodah Zarah. We
at least tried to stumble our way.
Yeah. It's like you don't even know what we were dealing with, and basically, you basically. There's explanations for us too. It's not you can't just adopt an ideology that you have where everything's all nice and you're a good boy and it's so easy to not worship idols and then judge us.
I mean, side note: imagine just replace Avodah Zarah with pornography.
Yeah,
and that changes the conversation a little bit today, doesn't it?
It does. It changes, in general, the conversation about ideologies in general. But you're right. No, within Yiddishkite, I understand what you're saying.
But the way we pathologize.
Yeah.
This king also said we did it, but we were trying not to do it.
Yeah.
And that itself is something.
Yeah. And you have no understanding of the desire that existed in the world for this. So how can you judge?
Right.
And the story ends that when he gives the shir, he calls him our teacher. Wow. Right? He calls him Rav or whatever. This is if as the some modern critics would have it, the teachings of the rabbis of the Talmud were a patriarchal tool of social control. This is the worst possible story that you could have in the Gemara and in the Midrash. This is an antinomian. Show some respect to people who threw all the laws away and didn't keep any of them, right? And you're nothing because you don't even understand the temptations that we faced. It's unbelievable.
The rabbi loses all his control.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Basically, yeah. It's like if you want to learn, I'll teach you, and I can be greater than you, even though I was a Eved Avodah Zarah. You don't know what you're talking about. It's remarkable. It's remarkable.
You like this stuff to this day. You love this stuff.
I love it because it's so.
What are you after? You're trying to subvert everything? Is that?
No, God forbid.
And I know you're not. So what's the thrill of this? Because look, there's no question. If you look at chassidus at face value, there's a very subversive quality to the way it looks at everything. Right? There's the foot is higher than the head. Everything Evan Masa Benim Shpina. This is a trope in the Torah. Everything is always what you think is low is higher.
Yeah. Well, it's part of Achdus Hashem. It's part of an organized system of thought.
Right.
And it's inherent to the very deepest depths of that system that the lowest is not really lowest.
So what thrills you about it?
But what thrills me about that is not the Achdus Hashem part, which I barely understand. What really thrills me about it is that there's a higher standard for what Yiddishkite can be. And I went for a long time hearing that Yiddishkite was something else, and that what I thought Yiddishkite was a totally idiosyncratic departure from the norm, you're off on your own mission, which I suppose is still true in some way. But I like that occasionally it just seems so clear that Judaism as a I don't know what the word is for it. Judaism as a mere communal project, no matter how religious the community, is not all of Judaism. There's more. It's not just a communal project. There's something that actually does speak to me about Yiddishkite, bottom line.
You don't like the communal project of it?
I don't
But
like...
what do you mean by communal project?
Yeah, well... The project of religion in general, and I'm with Manis Friedman, who so many people nowadays don't like, that it's false to call Yiddishkite a religion in many ways. But the project of religion in general is to get God exactly where you want him.
Right.
You have God exactly where you want him. You have him all boxed in.
Right.
You have him all. You have him in the perfect position where your relationship with him is totally codified. You know what's wrong, you know what's right. It's all so simple, like this rabbi in the Talmud did, by the way.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the corollary of that is either, well, there's different ways you could look at it, and there's different ways it could work, right? What do you do if the whole idea that the Jew is a piece of God is an incredibly radical idea? That the Nefesh Elokis is a piece of God is a fundamentally radical idea.
Right.
So of course, if you're going to make a religion even out of that, then the religion has to grow and become even more better at building structures and putting things in their place. In which case, it's not just God; it also has to be the piece of God as well. That also has to fit into the whole system. The bottom line is most people don't have to go that far because most systems don't have the Jew as a piece of God. Most systems have the person as bichlal, nothing, aspirational.
A fallen, whatever.
Yeah, the more chassidus the system, the harder and harder it is to do that. But
so you like the elusiveness of it, is what you're saying. You like the elusiveness that you can never nail it down.
I don't think that God is found outside. I don't think God is a great and terrible subjectivity. I think God is fundamentally an interior phenomenon. God is known by the soul, not found out in the world. And I believe...
Wait, that doesn't make it subjective?
It is, pardon me, what did I say?
Oh, it's not a terrible objectivity.
He's not a great and terrible objectivity. He's not the highest and the biggest tati and the biggest, even though all of that, of course, is also true. All the words can work either way, right? It's what's behind the words.
He's not Greek. He's not Aristotle.
He's not Greek. That's
Greek.
a very good way of putting it.
No,
I don't know if that's helpful to the listeners, but yes.
Well, you wrote a phenomenal thread about it a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago maybe.
He's not Greek. He's not Greek. Hierarchical religion.
Right.
Hierarchical religion is not Yiddishkite. In fact, there's a very interesting Mayarim where they talk about what the Umas Ha'olam believe. And what's interesting is I think most people reading those Mayarim would read them a little bit different than I'm inclined to read them, in the sense that...
You're talking about Elokad Elokaya?
Yeah, Elokad Elokaya. There's no real hislavshus. There's different ways that the Rebbeim put it. If you look up in Sefer Alikutim, Umas Ha'olam, for example, you can read the Tzemach Tzedek for 20 pages on what a goyim believe. I think it's very interesting. I think a lot of people read those Mayarim and assume that there's some kind of particular goyish philosophy that the Tzemach Tzedek has in mind, because it can't be that there's a fundamental difference between Yiddishkite and all goyish philosophies that are all alike in one way, and Yiddishkite's different, which I think, by the way, is... well, we get into that at a different time, but there are some strands of Yiddishkite where that's actually the foundation of the whole Yiddishkite, is that the Yiddishkite's a variant on a theme, as opposed to something completely disjoint and completely different.
Right.
But I think the Tzemach Tzedek, when he talks about that, is talking about the difference between Yiddishkite and all Goyish religions, and one way you could put those Mayarim about Elokad Elokaya and about his lavshus and Hishtalshalus is that, right, Ro'ememu Hashem al Goyim is a pasuk in many of those Mayarim, right? That God is exalted, which means basically God is high, and the closer you are to God, the higher you are. And the further away from God, the lower you are. And everything is structured like that, and society should be structured like that. And everybody, there's closer and there's further, and that's it.
Hamagbila Shabbos.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? That's what we say it in Hallel every month.
Whereas in Yiddishkite...
The
Eibishter is so much higher, and paradoxically, that means he's so much closer in everything. Which means that the entire paradigm of closer and farther is itself a shtickle not real. It's real in the sense that the Eibishter creates it and the Eibishter wants it. There's such a thing as Das Tachte and v'chulu v'chulu.
But that's our map. That's our mapping, which is not even close to,
Yeah. So what all this means practically, this is all like, in a sense, this is all not really being very honest, because this is all just like a retroactive justification of what I knew already from the beginning. In other words, what I assumed to be true already. In the sense that my approach is completely wild, and I just take the intuitive truth as it seems to me, and then worry about proving it and demonstrating it later in chassidus. But I'm half joking, by the way.
You're saying that you can't. It fits your personality, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it fits my personality.
Okay, what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
That means that you're one of the neshamas Rebbe Shab chose, no? Is that what it means?
I suppose that's true. I guess, yeah.
I think most Jewish people are quite subversive. On some level. I mean, just the history of it.
There's a tendency, which makes it all the more confusing and difficult understanding Orthodox Jews.
I mean, I don't think Orthodox Jews is a thing until a couple hundred years ago. I don't think.
But Nebuch, the Rebbe Rashab, chose my neshama that came in these 200 years dafka. So what a mess. No, I'm kidding.
You're being misaken for God knows what before.
Befashtus, yeah.
As we approach the 2-year mark of this podcast, Homesick for Lubavitch has become a household name in the Lubavitch community, with thousands of views each week on YouTube alone, as well as thousands more on the various podcast platforms. We have a devoted audience that listens regularly to the conversations and shares their thoughts with their families and communities. If you would like to sponsor an episode or advertise on one of our episodes, please reach out to Bensi at yuvlamedia.com. That's Bensi at Yuvla Media, YUVLA media.com. I mean, the nice thing about Gulum, I think, is that you can always assume that it was worse before.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
you're getting closer to the tikkun.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, so as bad as it is now, probably a step up.
I learned recently.
It depends how you look at Gulum, right? Is Gulum a punishment or
yeah? There's a lot of opinions that say that Gulum is a big chesed,
right?
They're letting you fix things. And
you know what's fascinating? The Tanya opens up with Mashvia Ma'aseti Tzadik Bal Tirasha.
Yeah.
Right, that's a Gemara that's based on what we say in davening. Chober Chatichra Chober Chatichra Cholashin Chatishava. Right, and so there's what the Gemara says. What's a Ber Chatichra? It's Zu Yom Misa.
Yeah.
Where the neshama basically has to prostrate itself in failure that it didn't live up to. What didn't it live up to? Cholosh and Chatishava. Zu Yom Aleida Mashpin Aisiti Tzadik Tirasha.
Right.
So the Marsha asks, it's backwards. It should be Cholosh and Chatishava and then Chober Chasicha.
Right. Birth and then death. Yeah.
Right. So what does he say? He says this is Gilgul. Right. The Yom Aleida comes after the past. Right. And that's, I mean, it's just a marsha, and I know that it doesn't mean that's what the Alter Rebbe was being mechavan to with this Gemara, but it kind of throws the whole Tanya into this rubric of, the eternal struggle to accomplish something that's inherently impossible.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it. Yeah. I just learned recently, quasi apropos of nothing, that there's a famous shaila of which guf does the neshama come back in its Tchias HaMesim, right? You have all these gulgulim.
Yes.
There's all different answers. Some say the first, some say the last. There's all different opinions. But what I learned recently is that Relo Yitzchak Berdichev says very interestingly. It's an interesting image. I told this to someone and they weren't so happy about it. But the Levi Yitzchak Berdichev says that 248 organs, 365 sinews. So the body that was metaken, that organ, that mitzvah, you'll get that part of that body. So it's going to be like
that part of that body, that part of the neshama.
Both. No. One neshama, right, of many gilgulim, but then that part of the body. So Yankel was metaken the right ear. So Yankel's right ear is going to be resurrected in Tchias HaMesim, but it's going to be with Elchanan's left ear. Yeah.
So we're not coming back full.
All in
so you're
pieces.
saying We're coming back in pieces.
That's an opinion of Rav Levi Skoberditcher.
That sounds like a movie ready to. It sounds like a script.
I think most people, when they first hear about it, will think more of it's more of a zombie scene.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That's another one of those weird Midrash Torahs that scares the kids, right? Maybe. Yeah.
By the way, Tchias Amesim is one of these subjects that's like so like child-proofed, it's like made so family-friendly that it's almost become silly. Like everyone thinks that Tchias Amesim is like their favorite bubby is coming back, and it's like that's part of it, but not the whole story. Like how are you going to deal with the fact that like you have everybody back?
Yeah.
And like, what's that going to mean? Like I was talking about earlier, what's it going to mean that like there's no end to any of this? And like we don't even go there. You don't go there. The guy that I'm upset that passed away, he's going to be back.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like, whatever. I mean, it's relevant to this theme. It's this gravitating towards the ever elusive. And I mean, if we build it out a little bit, also, it's, to me, this is like in a way the core tension of the chassidus project or the Lubavitch project, which is how do you build something stable that's inherently unstable?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you know the physics language of this much better than I do, but like you're taking a property which is inherently unstable. That's the whole point, right? Like. But you have to adopt certain hierarchies. You have to adopt certain customs.
Yeah.
How do you have both? And how do you institute their minhagim and their protocols without becoming that dreaded?
Yeah. I mean, there is a solution. Thank God I don't have to come up with the whole thing for the whole community.
What's that? What is the solution?
No, I'm assuming, I'm making a big assumption that there is a solution. The Rebbe made a community, right? The details of that community and how it works are the subject of many discussions on this podcast. And I frankly, number one, don't know much about it, and number two, don't care that much.
Okay, I'm not talking about the Gesher community. I'm not talking about a specific community.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in your own life, let's say. In your own life, how do you like, are you forever going to, like, you can't, or maybe you can, are you always going to be an outsider railing against the system? Like, at some point, it's like, well, I mean, does that become the system itself? Like, just because, like, you'll see, like, these washed out boomers who...
against the system,
rebels, rage against the machine. It's like, sorry to break it to you, you kind of are the machine.
Yeah, I'm not so worried about that happening in my case, at least not yet. But
you understand what I'm asking.
I understand totally what you mean at a personal level as well, for sure. I mean, the answer is that somehow you have to trust yourself to the deepest and most profound level. And at the same time, you also have to question yourself at every step.
There we go.
I don't know how you do both of these things at the same time exactly, but somehow it's both. It's very interesting because I tend, or at least my tendency in the past, I have some friends who are helping me with this tendency, but my tendency in the past was to be extremely full of self-doubt in general.
To err on the side of doubt.
Yeah. So all of the things that I now talk about are things that I usually felt and thought for a long time, but it's not even in a particular...
What was the doubt? That you didn't understand what you were talking about, or that you were too biased?
Both.
Both.
Number one, too biased in favor of myself and telling myself the satisfying thing that would satisfy my own issues. And number two, very, very alarmed at how I didn't see the way I saw things out around me in in the community and the people that gave me everything that I have. It's very interesting, isn't it? It's very hard. It's almost the same question as how can a child become independent from a parent in a way, no?
Right.
In the sense that if you were really, really honest, you would realize that literally everything you have comes from your parents. And you would have died when you were 1 year old.
I see. You're asking yourself if I have a question with this main body of the Chabad community, then either I'm wrong, or they're wrong, and if I'm wrong, then I have a problem because I don't like what they're doing. I think they're wrong, and if they're wrong, then who's right? That's
basically.
I'm basically all on my own.
And now, so the question,
and you came to the conclusion that you're right, that they are wrong.
In many cases, not that they're necessarily wrong bichlal, because again, I can't speak to the klal usually, as a rule. The klal chewed me up and spat me out. I'm more concerned about myself. Are they right about me? For me is really the question. And I was very, very, in my years in yeshiva, which we didn't get to in my personal narrative, which I'm grateful for, by the way.
Would you like to get to it?
If you want.
You're grateful that we didn't get to it, or you're grateful for your years in yeshiva?
Both. I'm just kidding, because I'm just joking, because I don't. Just joking about talking about myself and things like that, which is inherently a little uncomfortable, but not too bad. For many, many years, I worked very, very hard to be a Macab in the best sense of the word, and I really was, and I exerted a lot of effort to do that.
Which yeshiva was this?
Multiple. I went to Mayarim first for 2 years. Then I went to Tomche in Marstown. Then I went on sichos to Tel Aviv, yeshiva sichos. Then I came back into the Tzvi in Marstown. I was in yeshiva for a few years.
So who was the figure that you were like Macab from? Or is it a number of people?
Many, many people all over.
But when you say you exerted yourself to be Macab,
everyone, both from, which maybe this was part of the mistake, by the way, maybe I would do this differently in retrospect, but both from teachers and also from everyone around me as well. I was Macab from learning how to be a Lubavitcher, learning how to be a yeshiva bacher, right, from other bachrim. What does this community mean? And I was in full immersion mode in the best sense, I think, of the term. I was ready to go all the way in. I wanted everything. I wanted everything that everyone else had. I wanted to be conversant with and interchangeable with Lubavitch from birth bacher, which because I was in my not so young, I had an opportunity to do in a way that a lot of my fellow students at the Balchuva Yeshiva didn't have the opportunity to do.
Right. And you probably could have done it if you had stuck with it.
To this day, there's people who sometimes mistake me for not knowing me well, but in a social situation.
Right.
I'm a passing Balchuva, as it were.
Right.
But so I was Macab from everyone. I was learning a lot. And at some point there was some kind of crisis, which is an interesting discussion. And then after that, it became a reverse gear where I realized in the end that there's something that I'm looking for. And there's something that I was looking for since I was a kid, going to Chabad House. Even before that, when I was a kid reading the little Midrash says and wandering around and playing with sticks. And there's something that I'm looking for. And basically, either I have to commit to that something that I'm looking for to the end, no matter what it costs. Or I have to let that go and try and build structures and make something out of this. And I chose the former, and there's something that I'm looking for. And I basically had to decide that I'm going to go through, I'm going to have to go through the entire population of Crown Heights, the population of every yeshiva, every rabbi that I know, all 5 boroughs of New York, and some very, very strange people on the internet. And I'm going to go, I'm looking for what I'm looking for, and I'm willing to go through all of them to find it. And that's basically the commitment. That's my project.
So basically, if I understand correctly, it's an openness to learning, but not like free floating where whatever comes my way. There's a question that I have, and there's my history. Are you familiar with the Rishima about the needle on the mikveh step?
I've heard it. I don't remember what it says.
So it's the Mishnah that people say by Velas, Machashin Suram al Samara. And I don't remember all the details. It's a beautiful Rishima where Rebbe speaks about how the Machat refers to a Yid. There's a whole thing about, it's Machaber, a needle is Machaber, two pieces of cloth, it's Machaber, the heavens with the earth, or Elgin with Sachten. But the gist of it is that a Machat also has a point. It's pointy. It has an edge to it. That's the Jew. Now, the Jew, in this case, has a little bit too much edge to him, and so it's tummy. How you matire it? So drop it in the mikveh. Good luck. Well, you're not gonna find it. So you got to put it on the step. And then you have to
wave the water.
Maybe it's a Mayim, right? You have to bring the water. I think he touches that up as Avanir. I don't remember, but like you splash the water. You don't throw it into the water. It retains its identity here on the step. You bring the water. Kivin shavar lagal tahara. Right, like once that wave of inspiration or whatever, covers him, then he becomes tar. And I think that's a beautiful idea, what you're talking about here. And I think it's a crucial idea, which is, the question of yeshivos or bittul, the two sides of the same coin really is, how do you proceed? How do you hold together the fact that you are a person with a story, with individuality, with your own things, together with not getting caught up in that, right? And that's really in a way like the question, especially if you're going to talk about identity, and that is a question.
The thing is that maybe I can't explain. Maybe you've spoken to so many people. Maybe you explain it better than I can. But paradoxically, the more I decided that I'm looking for what I'm looking for, and I literally don't care. I'm just going to go right through whatever anyone that gets in my way. Long story short, the more I did that, the more of a fanatical Lubavitcher and a fanatical Jew I feel I've become, frankly.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense because in a way you are taking on the paradox head on, and so there are no more easy answers. There are no more easy answers, right? That's by pushing the contradiction to its fullest kind of opposition, you are forced to come to something new. Like our favorite cousins, with their dialectics like to say, But I don't mean to be silly. Like there's, like at some point I make videos for a living, right? And a lot of times people will call me up and they're like, we have this campaign, but there's this kind of elephant in the room question, and how do we deal with it? And sometimes one way to deal with it is, okay, let's kind of avoid the question and let's come to. But sometimes like, no, you gotta deal with the question, and that's how you get, and you're gonna come up with something powerful as a result because you're dealing with the question.
I feel like, in a way, despite my whatever you might call it, my oppositional burn everything down trappings, which I don't think are so necessarily pervasive. I hope that that's not how I necessarily come across. Maybe just at very, very first glance. But the
no, I didn't mean it that way when I introduced you. Yeah. I mean that you don't have any kind of awe of the modern world.
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
No, the modern world is good. That's a good thing not to have awe of, I think.
Modernism, I meant.
Also, very true. But I feel like the type of question that I deeply and profoundly believe that chassidus is an answer to, and the Rebbe is an answer to, is I feel that I give it more respect in a way. by asking the question to the deepest and most painful and most open and vulnerable and crazy extent.
Yes.
You have to make a leap to a certain extent, but I don't think I've ever failed to be caught after the leap. I don't think there's very, very few questions that you could really pose to this way of life as it truly is, as an inyan elokhi, as an inyan ruchni, even in seichel, that it can't handle. There's no the Alter Rebbe, etc. They've got us. They're good. They can handle it. They can handle the questions.
Yes.
And the question that brings the person to knock on the Alter Rebbe's door, which is of course the implicit thing that's missing from the Tanya, right? The Tanya is not a polemical work. So the Alter Rebbe is not trying to convince you of anything, right? The Alter Rebbe doesn't prove anything. It's not like the Kuzari or Mor Nevuchim or Chakira or a sefer like that. It's not even like a Musar sefer in that the psukim and stuff are not like they're not always rayas in the right. Obvious sense, right?
Right.
The Alter Rebbe doesn't have to prove anything to you because you came with the question. Right.
Interesting.
Doesn't have to convince you.
Does it resonate or not? Is it proof?
Yeah. In other words, he doesn't have to convince you to take his advice. You knocked on my door, right?
Fascinating.
Yeah. So it's not here to convince you of anything. So the implicit question that brings you to knock on the Alter Rebbe's door, I feel, we can make it so much more tiff. We can go. There's no limit. There's no limit to the depths of that question. The Alter Rebbe is so real. The Alter Rebbe is so ready to answer whatever that question may be. And I think we're hesitant to be honest about just how many things we don't believe and how many problems we have and how many issues we have. You can bring to the Alter Rebbe. And chassidus it's like.
Here.
Chassidus is the most radical, uprooting, crazy, profound, deep system of thought in the world.
I saw you wrote that recently. What did you mean by that? You meant that as hyperbole?
No.
What makes it more radical than other forms of mysticism, or even in Yiddishkite itself, Kabbalistic works, or?
That's a good question.
What did you mean by it?
What I meant is that there is nothing that the Alter Rebbe does not lift up, transform, and turn over. There's nothing left. There's nothing left untouched by the Alter Rebbe.
Right.
Which is what really radical is from a Greek root, which means from the root. That's really what radical means.
Interesting.
The Alter Rebbe uproots everything. There's no
symptom like a
pshuta, and at every level in Avodah, aesthetically, intellectually, at every imaginable level.
Right.
Chassidus Chabad is totally transformative.
Right. It's a totalizing system.
It is the most totalizing system imaginable.
Yes.
And every part depends on every other part. It's also the most elegant and systematized system imaginable, which is why you can't really pick and choose, and you can't make a mishmash, and you can't throw in random things into that sound like chassidus, that seem to fit with chassidus, because you're not giving it the respect it does. You don't understand the Alter Rebbe's project. The Alter Rebbe's project was holistic to an insane, unbelievable degree that no one made a total world philosophy like the Alter Rebbe, maybe since the times of the ancient Greeks, lahavdil, maybe even before. There's no and compared to other things in Yiddishkite as well, totally different.
It's Eberster Nesava at the top, and then all the way to Tachtonim, and like that's it. Like there's nothing left on the margins.
Yeah. The thing is Kabbalah is the closest, but still not the same. Because in Kabbalah is still talking about objective realities fundamentally.
Right.
So Chassidus is crazy enough to say that you, the Jew,
Right.
are before all the objective reality. This is taking place, in a sense, inside your head, really more properly, inside your neshama.
Kabbalah doesn't believe that?
Kabbalah does believe that, and in fact, Pshat and Chumash believes that, but they believe it because chassidus says it, yes.
Interesting. If you're looking for an event that is memorable, meaningful, and affordable, let me recommend This World is a Garden, a film and live concert production created by us here at Yuvla Media, inspired by Bosi Lgani, the first mimer, the Rebbe said. If you're a regular here at HFL, you know that Bosi Lgani is something that we think about and talk about a lot. And in this production, we use the power of cinematic filmmaking and a live concert by a string quartet to bring the beauty of Bosi Lgani to your community and your audience in a way that they've never seen, heard, or experienced it before. The production has already been hosted by Chabad houses around the country and has drawn wonderful reviews. Our package comes with everything that you need to put in the production: the film's original arrangements for string quartet, publicity materials, everything besides the string quartet, which we recommend that you hire locally to save on travel costs. To find out more about this production, please visit thisworldisagarden.com. Again, thisworldisagarden.com. And now, back to the show.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I'm not enough of an expert on Kabbalah to know.
The truth is, neither am I, so maybe who knows what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay, fair. But I feel like even, because I'm sure people that know about this could debate either way. It's a very fine, like, where does Kabbalah end and chassidus continue? Like, where's that line exactly? So much of chassidus is Kabbalah or based on Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of Kabbalah can now be reread through the lens of chassidus. So like, how are you going to ever separate what would Kabbalah look like if not for chassidus and so on?
Yeah.
I feel like, though, to me, the obvious line of demarcation is look at the cultures and communities that they have
absolutely
resulted in, right? First of all, there is no such thing as a community of Kabbalists. I mean, yes, in history there was a cadre of Kabbalists and Tzvas, but that's a whole thing. They're to themselves. They're hidden. They're exclusive, not necessarily because they look down on, not because they're elitist, but simply because you have to be of that kind of caliber to participate, right? And chassidus was like, heck no, like, this is everyone, right? And I think, like, that is the obvious. I mean, whatever you're going to say about, like, the theoretical distinctions, like the practical, and I think it's not just like a historical thought experiment. Like, I think this is a very relevant question I had with someone else recently. I had it with Joey Rosenfeld, who looks at chassidus through a more Kabbalistic lens, which is, his argument was that, that chassidus, or Lubavitch particularly, became in a way like too totalizing, or like we've figured out everything too much. We're like we have it all figured out. Yeah. And I think there's validity to that critique. Sure. I mean, it's one that I have felt often and made as well. So at least I think there's validity to it. But my question to him was, okay, let's say you didn't have that. Would you have been able to survive communism with a more nuanced, like abstract, or not the word abstract, but like, elevate. Sometimes you need, like, my point is that there's a culture as well where the kind of kishkis of the theology, for lack of a better word, expresses itself, and you learn a lot about it there. Yeah. Like, Lubavitch made soldiers. Yeah. It did. Yeah. It made, like, that's a real thing. Yeah. The separation of culture from ideas is not correct, in my opinion.
I agree, and I'll just say that I agree that they're totally inseparable. I will say that all my opinions on these matters are completely biased and always have been, because for me there was never really a choice of being anything else other than a Lubavitcher, and there really still isn't, even though what does it mean to be a Lubavitcher? But in terms of intellectually, in terms of chassidus, I've been a Lubavitcher since I was born. There's no, for me, believing in God was more of a question, and it wasn't that much of a question for me, to be honest. It was more of a question for me than the question of, is the Lubavitcher Rebbe's way of seeing Torah correct? To me, that was muvan me'alav. I've never had a question about that.
So I do want to ask you about that, because
Sure.
there's something that comes out in your writing. If anybody spends any time following you on X or going through your posts, there's a kind of fervent, I don't know the word, belief or loyalty to the Rebbe that would make you sound like you sat in the mikveh in Detroit for 8 years and marinated there, or the equivalent. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're painting this picture, which is believable to me, of being this kind of, I am who I am, I have my questions, I'm sorting through it on my own terms, everybody else be damned. And then when it comes to the Rebbe, you talk almost like, you'll forgive me, almost like a hack. Like the Rebbe's off limits, that guy, there's and I know there's got to be something there. It's got to be what's the, why do you think, I mean, or maybe you feel like it's beyond question. Why do you think about why the Rebbe is so you didn't even meet the Rebbe.
Yeah. True.
And why are you, where do you get this? I'm not asking why. It's not, you don't have to defend yourself, but where do you get this kind of the Rebbe's just the boss?
I don't know.
But I'm not inaccurate in my assessment.
No, you're accurate. In my own very idiosyncratic way, I feel. In other words, I don't know. When people talk about their relationships with the Rebbe, I don't know. First of all, it often makes me uncomfortable.
Why is that?
Because I think a lot of the relationship with one's Rebbe is fundamentally a very intimate thing that in Lubavitch sometimes becomes like a public sport of a kind.
Uh-huh.
But even aside from that, my connection began as intellectual. Well, that's probably not true. It began in the neshama, and then for a while it was intellectual, and then it came back to a neshama connection in some way.
But on a conscious level, it began as intellectual.
Yeah, it's intellectual. And what it really started as, and this is how they get you, what it really started as was provisional, in the sense of, okay, this is the Yiddishkite I'm encountering that sounds interesting to me. Around here in Atlanta, this was really the only game in town, for me anyway, that I would consider. It wasn't actually, by the way, not Bepel. There was other game in town, but those other games were so upgefragt in one way or another that the only thing I was going to do was, okay, so let's see what this Rebbe has to say. And I'm going to try it out and see if I like what he has to say. And in a sense, I'm still just trying it out and seeing if I like what he has to say. It's just become that I've so far found so much depth and so much profundity and so much, and this is at a purely intellectual level, right? I feel weird even talking about it because in a way it's very grub, but it feels grub anyway. The intellectual profundity and the all-embracing worldview combined with the Avas Yisrael is something you don't find anywhere else. It's really just that simple. The problem is that anyone who would really be real competition came too late. So I'm already completely biased, and I've been provisional on one track for too long, maybe. But the truth is that like I said, there was no point in this journey at which the question of whether the Rebbe's way of seeing Yiddishkite was ever a question for me. And I don't 100% know why.
Do you feel that somehow undermines your claim of being not open? I don't think you claim to be open-minded, but you claim to be subjective and real with yourself. Does this undermine it?
I don't think so, because the truth is that a bacher. I was talking to a bacher who came. There was a bacher who went away for gap year, Shana Aleph, as they call it in Israel, at a pretty modern Orthodox yeshiva from our community here. And he came back and he wanted for the summer before college, and he wanted to learn some Torah when we were here. So we learned a little bit of chassidus.
This is recently.
Recently, a year ago probably.
Oh, so Bachar much younger than you.
Much younger than me.
Okay.
We were learning a little bit of chassidus in the summer break because he likes Chabad and he likes chassidut. And but then it turned out that really the learning was just a pretext to ask lots of questions, which was great. So he really wanted to verbring. So the learning was just a pretext, although we did learn some Micha Mecha, the Rebbe Midrash, which is like the best. But we got into long discussions about Rebbe and Chabad, and he, I think, by Tunas HaNefesh is more modern Orthodox. A terminal case of Imazak. No, I'm joking. Leave
it at that.
But no, I'm just kidding. But it was beautiful. We learned and we had a discussion. So he asked me, why have a Rebbe? Why not have a personal connection with God? And it was being asked that question, which is not such a profound question maybe in a way, I don't know. For some reason, that question just like clicked it into place, like in an instant. I knew exactly what the answer was to the question. I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't prepared myself. I don't see myself as a Rebbe rah person. So it's quite funny that from the outside, maybe I do come off that way a little bit. But the answer immediately clicked into place. And the answer is, why do you need a Rebbe? Why do you need a Rebbe? Why can't you have a personal relationship with God? I told him, genius. You grew up in this Chabad house. Your personal relationship with God was given to you by the Rebbe. Right. Why do you even think you can have a personal relationship with? Where does that concept even come from? You think in Vilna 250 years ago they had a concept of a personal relationship with God? The entire concept was given to you on a platter. You don't even know where it comes from. You don't even know where this idea comes from. Because the Rebbe, the truth is, now we start getting to the radicalism. The Rebbe is also not a great and terrible objectivity. The Rebbe is also inside. That's the answer to the question. The answer to the question is that the Rebbe is not an external imposition, and for me, he never was. It's the personal relationship with God, the thing that I'm looking for. The Rebbe was there at every step. It's not like the Rebbe is waiting at the end. It's not like the Rebbe is waiting when all the questions are answered, right? As the Rebbe was there all along. The Rebbe is closer to you than you are to yourself. That's the answer to the question. That's the obvious answer to the question. The Rebbe has always been here. If you really, really believe in what a Rebbe is, in the description of the Rebbe. The Rebbe's always been here. The Rebbe's your own nefesh elokez. The Rebbe's inside you. This whole idea that there's a person that you go to, that's also very, very important. And of course, the Eibishter sends the tzaddikim into the world, as it says in Tanya, right? As to give us any chance whatsoever of having any sichos to elokus in this dark and lowly world full of klippos and tzitra achra. But for me, the Rebbe was always on the inside. The Rebbe is your personal relationship with God. The Rebbe is the refraction, my personal relationship with God, the thing that I'm looking for, and the willingness to get out of bed and go and look for it, is refracted through the Rebbe at every step. It's the Rebbe who told you that you can, and the Rebbe told you that you must, and the Rebbe who in who he was in as I sometimes joke with one of the engineers who goes to our Chabad House, by proving that an engineer can believe in God, right? The Rebbe the Rebbe's inside you. That's the inyan.
But why this Rebbe and not another Rebbe or like another Lubavitch Rebbe or another tzaddik? I mean, you didn't meet him, right? So the Rebbe, the way you're describing him, is not just an idea, a madrega. Yeah. You're talking about a person.
Yeah.
And one of the things that comes through in your writing is not so much like rah Rebbe stuff. I think that's. I was being silly before about sitting in the mikveh. It's more. It almost like to the way I've always read your stuff is that I know a lot about math and science and physics and the modern world and how impressive it is. It doesn't hold a candle to this. To what the Rebbe says. Yeah. Like you could throw anything you want at me, it's not gonna make me budge on this. Yeah. Right? So it's almost like the Rebbe's like, it seems like for you, like kind of like an ultimate bulwark like against modernism or whatever
name you want to give it.
Yeah, like nihilism is maybe the word. Like modern nihilism. And it's like, no, here's my answer to it.
Yeah.
Like, why or where do you get this? Like, is it in the personal example of the Rebbe? Is it in his ideas? Is it in the spiritual thing of a Rebbe? Like, what is? Because the reason I'm asking is you never met him.
No.
And you're talking on a very personal level.
Yeah.
So, is it the stories about him?
The stories are wonderful. The stories are beautiful, and the stories have been illuminating and a help. But it's really in sichos is the answer. Sichos and some letters, but it's really in sichos. I don't know how. I don't know what the magic. If I knew what the magic translation was that made the sicha into that for me, I could try and help and give it to others. But all I can tell people to do is learn sichas, and it doesn't work.
That's what it does for you.
Yeah. It's a disappointment, actually. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to give something that you find so unique and so precious, and other people just can't see it. Can be very difficult. Which is so funny, right? Because Likutei Sichos is started as a Mivtzoyim aid in a way, right? So Likutei Sichos began as something for Lubavitchers to tell non-Lubavitchers in a way, right? What's the Rebbe saying? The Rebbe said something this week about the parsha. Tell me something the Rebbe is saying.
Yeah, the first volumes I think were called something like for something for chassidus or something.
Yeah. So the irony is I'm using it all wrong, right? So I'm getting what's the word?
Why are you less valuable than the guy in the Litvish shul?
That's also true, but it's not just whether he's more valuable than me. It's that I'm what's the word? I'm jealous, right? I in a way it's so precious that in a way I don't want to give it on Mivtzayim because it's not going to strike them in the same way, and it's so painful that they're not going to see how precious this is. They're not going to see, and it's not that I think I see it in an ultimate sense. I mean, totally selfishly. In other words, they're not going to see it like I see it. Is the bottom line? I'm not talking about the emesdik preciousness of it, which I'm sure I also don't understand. But for me, it's in sichos. What it is in sichos. It's very hard to say. There's an there's a Yiddishkite. There's a Yiddishkite from sichos. There's a way that the Rebbe puts ideas and the world into place. He puts it into place in a way where that shines through everything. It recontextualizes everything, and in a way that I don't know, other things just don't do it for me. I very much enjoy learning Mashal Be'er Gela from the Maharal. I tweet about it sometimes when I learn it, which is not often enough. But I love learning Maharal. Maharal's like unbelievable intellectually. It's like it's a whole world in there. And
you like the clarity. You like the texts that have clarity.
The clarity,
the force of clarity.
Yeah, and not just clarity, but the way the weaving of things together. There's an achdus. There's a vision. There's this isn't arbitrary. There's a whole world, and you can enter that world, and you enter the Maharal's world, and it's a world. Everything is in its place. Everything is organized in there.
Right.
And it's all about midrashim and stories and things that are, which ironically to me the stories are what's real. The things that are real, in other words, not pshat. It's about midrash, which is what's real. But even though I love the Maharal, right? To me the Maharal is like Likutei Sichos extension, Likutei Sichos appendix, right? I can really build on and deepen my engagement with the sichos with some insight from the Maharal's way of seeing things. I don't know why. Is the bottom line. I'm sure it's a very unsatisfying answer.
No, actually, it's not so unsatisfying. I mean, I don't think there's ever going to be like, why do you love someone? I mean, good luck answering that in a way that makes any sense, even to you or even to the person that you love, and certainly to anybody outside of that, because words are not going to work there. Like Chassidus always tells us, words are chitonius, they're exterior. Try explaining. Explaining. I think I did come up with we were learning in the Torah the other day how a word is so insignificant. Legabe the midas that it's expressing. So I equipped. In this country, every morning people ask, "How are you?" And they absolutely do not care.
Yeah. They don't want to know. Yeah.
It's like such a perfect example of words
Yeah.
that like are utterly trivial and meaningless to the emotions that they claim to convey, right? And no, but so I don't find like it's not surprising, but it does make sense to me in a sense where, you know, at some point, you know, you might like the stormy seas, or it might not be that you like it. I mean, that I think is a little bit more like that kind of adolescent burn the world down. But I think some people are just aware, like they feel a sense like trying to make believe like everything around me is placid and calm.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I just can't buy it.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything feels a little bit too chaotic. Maybe I read too much. Maybe I see things differently. Maybe that's just my tchunas hanefesh. But at the same time, I like it when someone gives me some harbor. You know, like maybe I need to go out to sea every day to make a living, but I'd like to come home at night, you know, once in a while, once a week, and sit down and just, you know, feel like I'm stable for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, that only works if you feel that safe harbor knows what it's like to be out at sea.
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
I was about to say that.
Oh, yeah.
I was about to say that it is a harbor, but it's also out at sea. Is there ever comes to sea with you as well? I think anyway. I think.
Right.
I was thinking. I went to a cabin. I did a Baal Shem Tov experience once in my life. No, not really. I went to a cabin in the mountains in South Carolina for a week alone.
This is recently?
2 summers ago.
Okay.
I went because my brother had passed away Purim time, and I went in the summer just because I needed some thinking time, some alone time. So I went. And I went to this cabin. I was just in this cabin, unbelievably beautiful, Smoky Mountains, completely secluded. I didn't see another person for a week. There was no one there.
No phone?
No. Phone, internet, don't worry. I'm not that holy. But I didn't see, there were no people there. It was very, very peaceful. And I started really, I was sitting there, you know, thinking about chachos and putting on my tefillin and, you know, doing the davening thing, very uninspired, and thinking about my lack of inspiration, which is a good thing to contemplate before davening. And I just realized that, you know, what feels fake about this experience is that I'm in mourning and I'm in grief. It's a very, very, very painful. It's a very painful experience. It's like losing an arm or something.
Was this your only sibling?
Yeah. And the truth is that it's very, very painful. And what's so interesting about it is that I didn't think I would really feel it this way, but it really feels like like spiritual damage, like your spiritual body has lost a limb, like everything is more difficult, everything is harder to bear, everything is very, very difficult, painful. So I said the fake thing is that when I'm feeling these feelings when I wake up, and then I'm going to go and daven. And first of all, any real chassidim would say that you already made your first mistake at Kriya Shema Lamita last night. Granted, that's true. I did make the first mistake the night before. But anyway, but on top of that, so granted that I made that mistake. But now I'm feeling all sad and in pain this morning. The real fake thing is to turn away from this pain and turn towards God and start talking to God and saying, and making this bifurcation. You didn't know about that. I'm so sorry that I was ignoring you, God. This wasn't with you. This wasn't with God. This was, you know, my own terrible inner pain that you can't express, and you try and talk to people about it that are understanding and they help as best as they can. But at the end of the day, you have to deal with this alone and this terrible inner suffering. And I'm turning away from that inner suffering, which God obviously doesn't know about.
Right.
Intellectually, you know that this isn't true, but emotionally, this is what it feels like. I'm turning away from my suffering and now I'm turning towards God, where I'm going to tell him all the words that I told him every day. And I told him the same words before my brother died, and it's all great. It's all fantastic. And I'm going to tell him that, he lays out the ice and he, all my mises that I tell him when I turn to daven, I put my tefillin on. So that's so wrong. It's so wrong. It's so wrong that God is only in the davening and not in the suffering. It's so twisted and warped, and the artifact of being taught to daven of being taught to daven, maybe period, of becoming a davener.
Right.
Something with which I struggle profoundly, by the way. Davening is very difficult for me. What I mean is it's difficult to do the bad davening, not I'm trying every day to do the good davening even. I haven't even reached that madrega. I'm just I have a very bad relationship and pain with doing the bad davening.
You don't like davening with a minion, basically.
Yeah. I don't like davening with a minion at all. I hate it.
Lubavitcher.
That's the biggest proof. It's the biggest raya. Chaim Shapiro in Marstan Smicha always said that the only real definition of a Lubavitcher is that you can make a chil Lubavitch. That's the real definition of a Lubavitcher. So maybe this can be a secondary definition.
Look, I'm a cynic. I don't like that. I don't like the definition at all. No. That's. Whatever. Let's go back to your point. I have a lot to say about that one.
The point is the Rebbe / Eibishter, which to me come as a package deal, by the way. I have no problem with that. The whole idea that they're in the davening, but not in the pain that you are suffering, is such a dualistic, terrible, non-Jewish, fake way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And the more suffering you do, I don't mean to sound too Eastern or anything, but the more suffering that you go through, the more you learn Torah, the more you see suffering ever. This whole thing is shot through with suffering. I love Tehillim. I love reading Tehillim in English, slowly.
Right.
There's so much suffering.
So much suffering.
And the whole idea that somehow this book of Tehillim was somehow transformed into being a goody two-shoes and doing all the right things and pretending that everything is fine it's an insult to the intelligence, really. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they use the mefarshe Hanach to do it, they blame it on, if you buy the art scroll Eiv, I don't want to start naming names and calling out Sfarim, but if you buy the art scroll translation of Eiv, the one volume, right?
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about with the English translation and
the white one, yeah.
Yeah, with the white one. They have a whole set for all of Nach, right? Yeah. So if you get the Eiv and you start reading the introduction, which is very interesting. I love reading I
read it. It's pretty well written.
Yeah, no, it's well written. It's great. But the first thing they talk about, right, is did Eiv do something wrong, right? Is the big question, is the famous question. Because from the pshat of the text...
He did. No.
The pshat of the text is that he didn't. He was a righteous man and he was suffering for no reason.
And they're just testing him.
Yeah. And all this suffering that he goes through, where he stays loyal, it was really be'etzem, just a test.
Right.
The Gemara says differently, which is interesting.
Right.
The Gemara says Eiv was there, he was Pare's advisor, and there's all sorts of interesting things. It's a very interesting Ma'amar Chazal. It's an interesting topic. It's something that has to be understood. But the whole idea that because Eiv did something wrong, we could then collapse this story into something that makes sense, and that's the gist of the story, just strikes you as so contrary to the nature of the thing. You have to struggle with this. You have to figure out what this could possibly mean. And I feel it's the same thing for Tehillim. One of my favorite chapters of Tehillim is chapter 44. Chapter 44 of Tehillim, David HaMelech says, basically, the people have been good. We're here with your covenant. If we were doing something bad, you would be here and you'd be all over us. Like, in other words, you'd hold us to account, as you should. You should hold us to account for doing bad things. We're doing good things. We're with you. We've kept your covenant. We haven't strayed. And yet, our enemies make a laughing stock of us, and we're in the dirt, and we're ruled over by all the other nations, and we're totally abandoned, basically. And basically, David HaMelech is saying, it would be nice if you woke up. Woke up, Hashem. Wake up, Hashem. Wake up. Where are you, right? There's two ways of looking at it, right? You could look at it as David HaMelech is straying from his connection with Hashem, right? He's straying. Oh, this makes me so uncomfortable. David HaMelech is calling Hashem out. He's saying God's not holding up his side of the bargain. How could you say that? How could God not hold up his side of a bargain? Right. And it starts to make you panic. You get anxious about it, right? Or you could say, "Mamash ibchem istabra." It's exactly the opposite, right? We're in a blood covenant. We're chained to each other. God, there's no freedom for either of us. We're stuck here.
He's
mutually assured destruction. Yeah. Mutually assured destruction. You know, if your people are going to be destroyed, you're not going to like it. So wake up and save us. This is not. There's no freedom. You're not an abstract Greek idea of God. You're not the logos. You're not a pure act or existence per se or all these nice ideas. You're not a spiritual objectivity. You're someone we made a covenant with. That covenant is signed in blood. We're holding up our end. No, and that is being frum. If that's not being frum, then I don't appreciate being frum.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Recently, I don't remember what the moment was, but there was this moment where I felt like, I'm not trying to burnish my bona fides as some kind of makusher or spitz, whatever, but the Rebbe clearly plays a big role in my life, and is my Rebbe, for lack of a better description, and I struggle with the definitions similar to the way you do, and I also struggle with claiming things in public about something that I grapple with in private, but that also changes it changes so often, and it's hard for me to say this is what it is when it. So with all those disclaimers, something did shift for me when I started seeing the Rebbe as simply the person who opened his heart to just immeasurable grief from people that came to him with their tsars. And I was like, my God, this is a whole different realm. It's not like I understand the Rebbe's sichos or the Rebbe's godless, and that I had a handle on, and this I don't have a handle on. But there's something about where, I don't know, the ocean, they talk about going to the ocean and just feeling the immensity of the ocean. Yeah. The immensity of the ocean, of the pain and grief that the Rebbe was really encountered and really was open to, somehow strikes me in a completely different way, with a different kind of roar than the ocean of Torah. Yeah. The ocean of Torah is big, but it's like you're saying, there's something, it can become sterile, it can become a little bit too comfortable, or there's life, and then there's escaping to the safer. Yeah. And then it's Shavuos night, a local friend of mine where I live, told me about a diagnosis of one of his children. And, I wouldn't say we're particularly close. I don't think we've ever had a conversation more than 20 minutes before, but on Shavuos night, we learned together a little bit, and then maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, he was telling me. And I didn't have much to offer besides an ear, essentially. I don't have any expertise in the field or anything. And I don't think he was asking me for anything besides that. And just the heaviness of it, feeling someone's, or even just observing someone's grief or someone's pain, and it's imagine doing this imagine going to the oil with sacks and sacks of people telling you the one thing that no one else can give them any kind of solace to. Yeah. I don't know, that ocean, the roar of that ocean is just, and when, for whatever, maybe the people listening to this is are you crazy? I knew this since kindergarten. Yeah. For whatever reason, I hadn't paid attention to that as like, and so I think it's similar in a way to what you're talking about. Like, this maybe I'm playing off some title of a book, but I think there's a book like called The God of Our Suffering or something. Like the Rebbe of our suffering.
Yeah.
There's, not trying to turn the Rebbe into some kind of martyr or some kind of, it's not trying to make everything dark and gloomy, but it's there's something very real about it, I think, and something very encompassing about it. Because pain is that one thing that we always want to run away from.
Yeah.
Right? So I do resonate to what you're saying.
Yeah. Even in the Torah aspects, right? Which, for lack of a better term, for me, is the learning is just trying to get a grip on life is really what it is. The only thing that makes it Torah is that there's a Jewish way to do it and a Goyish way to do it. Torah is the Jewish way to do it.
Right.
So which by the way, the two things it turns out completely and utterly different. Which is why I don't like the modern world. Maybe.
You don't believe in Judeo-Christian values?
No, not so much. I'm not such a big fan of Judeo-Christian. It's like saying I don't know. It's like saying fire and water values or something. But even in Torah and even in learning and even trying to figure out how this all works and how we're going to do it and what the mission is and v'chulu v'chulu. Even in figuring that out, when you learn the sichos, for me anyway, I can only speak for me. I don't know if it's an objective reality, maybe it's just how I feel. It's impossible for me to learn the Rebbe's Torah and not feel that the Rebbe is in a very real way behind me. Or at my side, I don't know how you want to put it. Maybe in front of me, I'm following. I don't know where. It's starting to sound like the Carlbach song. The Rebbe is there. The Rebbe is helping. The Rebbe is for it. The Rebbe is for Jews, which sounds like such a simple thing, right? But when you realize it means every Jew, and you realize it means you where you are and with all of your issues, right, and all of your problems, and in your pain and in your suffering and in your total misunderstanding of this Rashi, even after you learn what the Rebbe says about it, you don't understand, and all of this, right? The Rebbe's there. The Rebbe's present. It's at the end of the day, it's an act of love. And maybe it's harder to point out exactly where that is in Likutei Sichos, but I'll tell you what's easier to do is to point out where it's not in everything else.
Very interesting.
Other things in Torah are different. And outside of Torah Lahavdil, there's nothing like it.
No, but you did mention earlier, it was very interesting, your description of the Rebbe, like the combination of his learning or his Torah with his Avos Yisrael. One of the like most powerful stories that I picked up in this whole project, this podcast project, was like towards the end of the podcast with Yosel Mashkin. I don't know if you listened to it.
I'm not sure.
If you heard this story, you'll remember that you heard it, and if you hadn't heard it, you'll appreciate it. That he was saying how he heard from someone. Basically, he heard it from a reliable source. That they remembered that the Rebbe had a brother, the other one. I'm forgetting the name now. Whatever, the Spitz are going to kill me. Yeah, the Rebbe had another brother who wasn't well. And he was in a sanatorium in Kharkov, I think, one of the larger cities. And he was there for an extended amount of time. And the Rebbe came and spent almost an entire year there to take care of his brother.
Wow. And
apparently the Rebbe didn't come prepared to stay for such a long time, so he came with only like a shirt, one shirt. And they said like before long the shirt was like black, like it was.
Right.
But like in my mind, it's like it was so jarring because like the image of the Rebbe in his youth, which of course a lot of it is exaggerated because he was a very private person, but the narrative is I sat and learned the whole day. He was this person who like you couldn't separate him from the Sefer. Okay, let me take that on face value. You're telling me that he took almost a whole year off to be with his brother.
Yeah.
Like And to me, I was like, wow, that you could say, well, okay, but a lot of people do that. That's true, but when in the context of who the Rebbe was as a person,
Absolutely.
right? It's
easy to take a year off when you have no rootedness and you're not doing anything important. Sure, I'll take a year off.
No, but I'm saying there's so many ways to say, well, I'm learning, let someone else take care of him. I was with him for a few weeks. Like, no, he's my brother.
Yeah.
He's my brother, and it's like no, it's also inevitably, and maybe this is something that I struggle with more because of whatever baggage I picked up along the way. I'm not projecting it onto you, but the Rebbe as a leader of a larger group of people, it becomes very like malchustic. The Rebbe is up there, and our job is just to be the foot soldiers.
Yeah.
And maybe that's true on some level. I'm not saying that that there's no truth to that, but there's also the brother aspect. Like you're just talking now, like you're going through this. You're in this space of. You're in this space of angst, of darkness, of questions, and there's someone next to you who has a capacity to care, right? Not to do it for you, and not to make life easy, but to listen.
Yeah. The thing is that this is where you have to be both absolutely certain in yourself and also always question yourself, which is that you could say, isn't this whole approach when the Rebbe is inside you and the Rebbe is there at every level of your suffering, isn't just a little bit too self-serving? Where is your appreciation of the Malchus? And you could say fundamentally, don't you also have the Rebbe right where you want him, right? In a sense, don't you also don't you also have the Rebbe? He's at hand. He's in your Likutei Sichos. He's right there.
The Rebbe of our trauma.
Yeah. If you want to, that's what he could become. Yeah.
Well, and he has become. Yeah. At least it looks like it.
Yeah. But the thing is that I really don't think so. I really think, and maybe there's no defense. Maybe there's no defense. I don't know. But I think that as long as it's not unfolding itself only as answers, as long as it's always unfolding itself into more questions, which so far I haven't reached the ultimate answer. There's always more questions. As long as it's still unfolding itself as questions, I really don't think that this is something to worry about. I guess the summary of a lot of what I'm saying is
Isn't that your pinned tweet, the Baal Shem Tov says?
It is my absolute favorite thing.
It's your pinned tweet.
It's my profile. Yeah.
It's in your profile. More than a pinned.
Even more, even higher. The Baal Shem Tov says that for every question I have an answer, and for every answer a question.
Yeah.
Which the funniest thing about that Torah is that I heard it in the lunchroom at Mayanot the first time. I know exactly where I was the first time I heard that. And
not many Torahs that you remember, where you were.
Yeah.
So it's like a life-changing.
The thing is at the time I didn't even get it. I didn't even think much about it. I just thought that's so interesting. That's what a weird thing. What a strange thing to say. And I didn't know if it was true or not because I heard it in the lunchroom. I didn't hear a rabbi say it. Right. I heard it from some guy, some bacher.
But we celebrate the founding of Techitrim was a lunchroom. It's a very tiff of art, by the way.
That's true. It is true. It is a tiff of art, and you do learn a lot of things in the lunchroom. But someone said it, and the Rebbe says, a bacher in yeshiva says, the Rebbe says XYZ. It's like, who knows if I'm ever going to figure out whether that's true or not. Right. And then years and years and years later, I saw it's literally in my Mayarim. It's literally in the it's in the Mayarim. And I do think the more I thought about it, the more I think it encapsulates everything. That's in a way, if you could summarize my entire philosophy, it sounds like such a grub, egotistical thing to say. But if you could summarize, it really does speak to me. It really does speak to me because the whole point is that it's not about the question or the answer. It's where are you going? It's a ladder. The questions and the answers are a ladder. Right. It's not about having a question. Don't hold too tightly onto your question. That's the wrong type of attachment. And then don't hold too tightly onto the answer that you get to that question either. That's also the wrong type of attachment.
Beautiful.
The whole thing is not about the question or the answer. And this, by the way, I think is what makes chassidus and not Kabbalah, by the way, just to bring that back. I think that's the difference, is that it's not about making the map. It's not about being able to say, where's this thing, where's that thing. Oh, I understand the relative and the difference between this. I have this unbelievably edel havchana that Kabbalah gives you, where you can say, that's bina shebechesed, or atzilus, right? No, that's incredibly important because of the Edelkeit that's required to really internalize chassidus, right? But that's not what chassidus is about. Chassidus is about movement. And movement into what, right? The answer is into neshama, which means into God. It's the same thing. It's inside and into God. That's the answer. The answer is or into Rebbe. It's all the same thing. Into Rebbe, into neshama, into God. And the questions and answers are just the ladder. And by using them as the ladder, you justify why they ever existed. Why did the Eibishter put you in this terrible roiling sea, right? On the contrary, this is the meeting place. This is the place where we have to meet. This is going to be the vessel. We're going to meet in this. This is the meeting place.
Right.
And that's the way it had to be. That's what the Eibishter, that's what you can give the Eibishter. You give the Eibishter, come and meet me, where the question gives way to the answer, and then the answer gives way to the next question, right? So,
where the water and sand kiss, they say.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful way you're putting it.
Yeah.
Of the don't take the question too seriously, but don't take the answer too seriously.
Yeah.
And like that's almost like the two sides of the coin. Like there are people who, the answer is whatever, but questions are where it's at.
Yeah.
Don't take your questions too seriously.
Yeah.
Don't be so I would say precious about your questions, but also don't be too cocky in your answers, right? And it's interesting, you talk about movement, like what how do you translate chassidus or Chabad, like what is Chabad chassidus? How do you translate it in English? Very often in letters to politicians, you would talk about the Lubavitch movement. Right? And of course you can say, it's just movement. But what is a movement? That's what a movement is, right? It's like it's about going somewhere.
Yeah.
And of course, if you think about it, it's all about, like Lubavitch has to end with Mashiach. Exactly how and what it's going to look like and how, that's way beyond what I know. But
which body parts we're going to have.
Yeah, which body parts we have. But I wanted to wrap up a little bit with what you're talking about. It's a lovely idea that you're talking about, this grappling with certainty or confidence in yourself while also being utterly uncertain.
Yeah.
Right? And I think in many ways that is the very fine balance that like the Lubavitcher Chassid struggles with, and why so many of us, or I won't talk for you, but I and many others that I know struggle with cynicism, because you can very easily lapse into cynicism for that kind of like, I either I know everything or I don't know anything. Like it's very hard. Yeah. And you're asking what's the solution? Not that I have an answer for you or that I can attest to how it works for me, but the way you're talking about it reminds me again and again about the forgotten art of Kriya Shalamita. Right? And Kriya Shalamita in many ways is exactly this framework that you're talking about, which is it's that avodah that you have stepping into the darkness of night. Right, the night is the time of the unconscious, and the parts of you that in many ways are unsavory, and it's that time of day where in many ways people are ashamed of that time of day. And I'm not even talking about like the grub away. Just it's not the civilized part of day, right? Even what the pasuk that all the bad stuff comes out at night, right? Yeah. And
there's a saying among the Jewish mothers that nothing good happens after midnight. That's what we always got to.
Right, and we're here after midnight right now. So
the Chassidim beg to differ. That's a different story for a different reason.
Or it might be the right, and it's time to wrap up. But I think there's because I was thinking while you're talking, like there's this beautiful mimer, and that talks about the Friedrich Rebbe talks about the Nasan Aliyas Kir, making the room for. Yeah. And what a mimer. It's a beautiful mimer, right? A gorgeous mimer. And like the context of it, he's talking to people who are struggling. Talk about Lithuanians. I think it's Lithuanians struggling with modernity, struggling with modernity. And he says this idea that you have to build an enclave. Don't try to build a whole house for Elisha Navi. take it easy. You're not build an enclave.
Yeah.
And what's an enclave? At least this is my interpretation of the Mayarim. What's an enclave? He says, "Vayer vayibek yom echad." The way you get to echad is consolidate. Instead, like the day is two. There's too much stuff going on. Consolidate in the quiet. You have night, sleep, and then the morning. So start with the night, Kriya Shema Shalamita, and then the morning, which is Shacharis, and so on.
Yeah.
And on one hand, that sounds wonderful. When you're in the privacy of your home, that's when you have your vinkel to make godliness. But on the other hand, it's like that's when you suffer. That's when you're alone with your thoughts. Right? That's the nighttime. There's no. That's where you're going to build God. You build God in the shul with the minyan, and when you go for mincha, and he doesn't even talk about mincha in the Mayarim. Interestingly,
That's true, yeah.
He kind of leaves it out. Yeah. It's like no. You have to. That is where you're going to make your first and in a way your last stand. Yeah. You have to go there. It's the one place that you have in a way dominion over. Everything else is more civilized, but it's also it's more contentious and.
Yeah. It's the place. It's the place of strength in a weird way. In the place where you get most dragged along behind the car, like I was talking about earlier, that's actually the place of strength. That's where we're sovereign, right? It's the inner world. Right. As the inner world in chassidus, it's one of the many counterintuitive things in chassidus. Is that when we say someone's begilui, if you learn like Rebbe explaining the difference between like lamai lamai adin ketz and lamata mata adin tachlis, right? The way the mashal Rebbe gives is when a person's begilui, right, that means they're totally present in their inner world, which on face value is totally backwards, right? But that's actually how chassidus sees it. When a person is begilui, that means they're totally in their own experience. Where's your experience? It's not out there. It's not performing for other people. It's not talking. It's inside yourself, right? What's the tzimtzum? What's making or rather, what's the ability of self-concealment that allows das Tachta, the other, to arise, right? It's withdrawing from your inner world in order to speak. So in order to, it's all the opposite. The real world is that world at night. The real world is as it were your place of strength. Everyone in the modern world feels so powerless over everything. As I see the news, everything happens. I have no power whatsoever, right? The thing is the inner world was taken away from us. We don't believe in it anymore. Right?
You have to go to the postmodernists.
Yeah, exactly.
Authenticity.
Yeah, which is why, despite the fact that the postmodernists are so terrifying, and there's many awful things in postmodernism, at least they're not the modernists. You have to rank the evil things.
Yes, another favorite tweet of mine.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, people. I don't know if anyone really knows what you're talking about, but the that's fine. The postmodernists are bad, but wait till you find out what the modernists did in the 20th century. That inner world is the place that we have power over. I have to say that you bringing up Kriya Shema Lamita, and the truth is I brought it up earlier and wasn't planning to as well, is unbelievable Hashgacha Pratis, because on Yutas Kislev this year, here, they had Rabbi Shishler from South Africa. Okay. He spoke and then he verbrenged for the whole Atlanta community, big verbrengen in the other neighborhood. I remember one thing from the verbrengen, and the truth is that it's like one of these things where you take one line and you're still like shocked and rocked by this line, right? And he said, when you're up at 2 a.m. and you're feeling lonely, and you take out your phone and you put on YouTube, why aren't you opening a look at the sichos? Why are you putting on YouTube? So are you turning to YouTube or are you turning to the Rebbe? Now, the truth is that if I had heard that 10 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes and moved on. But the truth is that at the level that I can appreciate the reality of that, it totally shocked me and rocked me. It's a fantastic question. Why indeed? Why, if you're at 2 a.m. when you're lonely, Kriya Shema Lamita time, the witching hour, right? Right. Why don't you take out a look at sichos? It's a very interesting question. Are you turning to the Rebbe? Are you turning to other things? And the truth is that my minhag is to turn to other things. It's not to turn to look at. That's not when I open a look at sichos. Yes. So the question is, why not? And the answer is because I think for me, or at least my answer tonight anyway, is that I haven't allowed the Rebbe to enter into that role. That's the answer.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Powerful, but beautiful.
I haven't, the Rebbe's not welcome there for some reason. I don't know why not. It's a very painful place to welcome him, right?
He's not that subjective yet.
Yeah, that's the problem, which means he's not that real yet.
Wow. What a way to end. What a way to end, man. L'chaim, Baruch. This has been fantastic.
This was awesome.
Exceeded my very, very grand expectations.
I had a great time.
Yeah, pleasure meeting you, Tzvi. Thank you. The music for this podcast comes from the album Repentance Doors by Oren Tzor and Nadav Bachar and is used with their permission.